That's no tease in the title. This aircraft just might be the most affordable twin-engine option ever. So stick around and find out how. All right, some big news happening in the experimental world and light sport world. Jabiru has been flying a twin for many years, but first in the United States is right here behind us. In a few minutes, we're going to talk to Nick on the mechanical side of things. We've got Tony, who's the owner and of course funding this. And then we've got Scott that's going to sell you the next one. 1, 2 on a Jabiru. Okay, so we're standing here in Aryan Aircraft, which is, well, we visit here many, many times. Nick always has all kinds of projects. I think the rolling rate is 13?
13, 14, something.
There's like always 13 aircraft in here.
We kind of lose track once in a while.
Yeah. So his newest project going on is he's taken on this twin engine, which again, it's flown before in Australia for several years now, correct?
Yeah, and South Africa, they've got one too.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's going to take this on, and I want to talk to him about the mechanics of getting this aircraft to fly. So to start off, how did this conversation start with corporate or the home office of getting this going?
Well, it kind of sort of was like they had one flying to South Africa, one flying in Australia, and been mulling over the idea of bringing one to market. And we have a builder, an owner builder, Tony. He's building this airplane with us, said, I want one. I want to do this. I've had a twin before. I want to do this. So that was it. Somebody wanted to do it, and so we decided we'd do it and take it on. So, but it's an interesting project, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit, but there's a lot of R&D and kind of experimentation going on because it's only the third of type, and so.
Yeah. All right, let's go over that right now. What do you think so far about this design? The comment section is open to your ideas. Okay, Nick, so rolling right into the twin. This, obviously, the one you have here is a single engine. So what did you have to do to get it to the twin engine option?
So, generally speaking, from the firewall aft, the J432 is identical to the J230, J430 series of aircraft structurally. So, from the firewall back, same airplane, but from the firewall forward, you can tell it's a lot different. Now, behind the firewall, there's some additional gusseting. There's some doublers and plates and laminations that we're ending up having to do that Jabiru will do in the future to future J432s. But because this is only the third type ever built, and really the first one being built outside of a factory, we're having to kind of do some of that work here and make the modifications ourselves. So.
Okay, and so just looking at the styling, if you will,
yeah,
of the installation, you have some type of like torque tube that spreads across the whole, and then triangulated back to, I guess, a lower, what would be a longeron in a metal airplane. What do you call it in a
we still
fiberglass?
Still call it a longeron or a stiffener or something like that. But yeah, there's a formed fiberglass D-shaped tube that runs through the bottom there. It does the same thing as a longeron would do. So.
Okay, and normally again, on this particular model, you would have a 6-cylinder Jabiru, which is 120 horsepower.
Yes.
So now you're running 2 4-cylinders. What are they?
80 horsepower. Although I think they make a little bit more, but 80 horsepower is what Jabiru advertises them as. So. Okay.
Which is it's a great option because in reality you're only adding 2 more cylinders,
right? But
a lot more horsepower.
Yeah, and not a lot more weight actually. So you get 160 horsepower combined, and these are 132 pounds apiece. We're shoving them back a little bit further. So based on that and a little bit of, we're not giving a whole lot up. And with the avionics we want to put in the plane and other systems, it works out really good with the weight and balance anyway. So everybody looks at it and thinks, oh my gosh, it's going to be really nose heavy. It's not. With the proper planning, we can make the airplane work really well.
So it's actually a fairly simple installation. You've got a couple of doublers or whatever to stiffen up the firewall, and then you got this custom mount. Obviously the cowling's going to be custom to this.
Yeah, and we'll get a picture of it with the nose bowl, we call it, put on here with the fuselage. We don't actually have the cowlings for the engines, but I have some nice pictures for you. Jabiru's still kind of doing a little R&D on that to get the best aesthetic look. They're not really sure where they want to put the oil coolers yet, but they're working through that. And they got some really pretty cowls with the oil coolers tucked up, so we'll see how that goes.
All right, so now to the why, and why this is all happening. And Tony, here's the owner. Before we get into that, Tony, tell me a little bit about what your background in aviation is, and then we'll get into the why of this specific aircraft.
Well, I got into aviation back about 25 years ago. I'm in a small business, and aviation really opened the door to kind of get, around to more customers and more states. And I do electrical contracting for a living. So What really, I had some issues with my health. So due to the kind of I'm going to call it, after I had a few health issues, I decided to get out of the commercial aviation. I flew, I didn't tell you that I flew Bonanzas and Cessnas, and I have a twin rating in travel airs, you know, and things of that nature.
A good cross-section of experience.
Yeah, so I decided to, but I dropped all that. I dropped that when I had the health scares. This was before the basic med came out,
Okay.
so my option was light sport, I thought. And in looking around the light sport community, I looked at, I needed to carry a lot of equipment. I needed to carry stuff and things with me. And
Sure.
it wasn't necessarily the passengers. So when I came across the Jabiru, it was just it fit my mission perfectly. It had so much room in the back, and it had a lot of ability to carry a heavy load. So that's what really put me into light sport and to Jabiru. So I bought the 230D, Jabiru 230D.
You've been flying that for about how many hours now? How many years and hours?
You know, I think total I've got about 700 hours.
Really?
Total.
You've broken the thing
in a Jabiru.
Okay.
Yes. We have a different engine in it now. We put the Gen 4 in it maybe 2 years ago, and I only have 180 hours on that engine now because I've been flying less in the last 2 years.
Okay.
But what I go to Oshkosh each year. I've gotten to know US sport planes really well over the last few years, and spent a lot of time at their booth and getting to know everybody and talking about Jabirus all the time. Meet a lot of people that have the same type of need for, you know, their medicals have become an issue for a lot of people.
Sure.
You know, with all kinds of different things. This again, now I have basic med. Before I didn't, right? So that's kind of what changed the whole atmosphere. But once I started flying light sport, especially in this Jabiru, there was no reason for me to go back to another airplane because it's very efficient, and it would really do any mission that I needed it to do and carry whatever load I needed it to carry.
All right, so just jumping in here real quick, you can kind of see there's this tube here. If I can zoom into it, it's so bright out here right now. See that tube? That creates a vacuum, of course, when the plane's flying. And then Mr. Tony here has got this great creation in his seats. What's going on in your cockpit?
That's right. Well, I was flying a little bit too far from my bladder, so we found this little.
You talk into that?
Absolutely. And it's got an AN number, so it's absolutely legal.
Yeah.
And it's got a great Venturi. And then I just got me some beer hose, so I went to US Plastics and I bought hose for beer because I thought my urine's pretty much like beer.
Right.
So I thought this would be the best thing, just to puts a vacuum on it, go right in, and no stops.
No stops.
No stops.
Now, is that like part of the hands-free kit, or?
Absolutely, hands-free.
And Scott, do you sell the hands-free kit there?
We sell the hands-free, the T-tubes.
The T-tubes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
All right.
It's a kit for an add-on to the jet.
And my hope is that this all atomizes before it hits the ground.
And you know, I believe that's what happens. I've never jumped out yet, but I want to watch it. I just haven't been able to yet. I'm going to get my GoPro one day and put it under there to see what that looks like.
Well, maybe we can do a flyby. What do you say, Brian?
Yeah.
Not over me.
Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, offering everything from state-of-the-art glass cockpit options to advanced control modules that power and control your entire aircraft. Gratia Aero Group at GratiaAero.com, proudly representing these best-in-class brands for experimental general aviation. Sherwings, BD Aviation, and MW Fly. KFA, Kitplanes for Africa, engineered for adventure and built for the bush is their motto, offering several STOL-kit aircraft options like the Expedition, Safari, Bush Baby, and Explorer. Find them online at kitplanesforafrica.co.za. BravoFox at bravo-fox.com. The US Distributor for Blackshape Aircraft, providing sales, maintenance, spare parts, and repair services, located at the Sheridan Airport in Indiana. Visit us online at experimentalaircraftchannel.com for all things DIY aviation. And consider supporting us on our Patreon page to help us bring you more original aviation content. All right, so Nick, moving into what might be different for this engine and also the controls for a twin engine now.
Sure.
Talk to that.
So as you can imagine, we've got 2 engines to control, right? So we don't want to have them all in one system. We want to have them redundant. That's why we got redundant engines, right? We got 2 engines, so if one fails, we got another one running. So we're going to have separate oil cooler systems, separate batteries, separate alternators and regulators. So we have 2 different charging systems that will still feed the main bus, but we can shut one off or turn one on in case of a failure or something like that. All about redundancy, right? So now our fuel system, you know, we're going to have still wing tanks in the Jabiru. We're going to have a header tank that both engines will draw off the header tank, and we'll have separate fuel valves for the left and right engine, of course, so as you can imagine, which is a little different than a single engine airplane. In the cockpit, up on the firewall on the panel, not the firewall, but the panel, we're going to have dual throttles, right? So we're going to have a set of throttles on the left and a set of throttles on the right for both pilots. And so that way we can, of course, operate both engines separately. Now the cool thing about the Jabiru is it's got a CV carburetor, so we don't have any mixtures to mess with, and we got fixed pitch props, so we don't have any prop controls to mess with. So it's, you know, one lever operation really with a twin engine airplane. So it's kind of cool how to do that.
All right, Tony, so jumping into the why on the twin now, you discussed your mission, and you need to be able to carry heavy loads and so forth. So,
Right.
so why upgrading to the twin option?
Well, the big push for me was once I started getting around Jabiru and noticing the different aircraft they had, I figured out that they made a twin, and I'd just never seen one. I got to researching and looking online, talking to US Sport Plane about it. And it really became more of a desire once I was flying with my wife a couple times, and I'm kind of moving in my company. I'm moving more into I'm spending less time in the company, and that gives me more time for, I'm going to call it recreational flying, pleasure flying, going somewhere, vacation flying, that kind of thing. And my wife was, when she was with me, I've got a total time of almost 3,000 hours, but you know, this plane's a little bit different in that she didn't feel as secure. We have 1 engine, right? We have no parachute, and a lot of that's being talked about right now. And so I think her level of confidence, I was talking to her about it. Well, you know Jabiru makes a twin, right? And she said, well, no, I don't. Why don't you have one? So I said, well, I don't even know if there is one here. So I got to talking to them about that. And that's really what pushed it, was the safety aspect of it. Her to feel so much more confident means she'll fly more with me, because I'm okay in a single, but she was not, and that's really what pushed me to say, you know, the United States needs a twin, and they need a light sport twin, because there's a lot of people like me. There's a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s, and they're done with the whole medical routine. They're ready to, but yet they want to fly, and so I decided that I would embark on this adventure with Scott, with Nick, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I feel like there's a great place for this in the United States, and you know, we don't know what the next laws will be or how the future will roll out, but we do know that there needs to be a place for this for people who want to be more secure. Safety is such a big deal, you know, in our society. For all of us, we're all becoming safer. We're trying to in every way. So on this airplane, we have figured out a way to put a BRS parachute system on it, and we have 2. And the biggest concern I had was, will the twin fly on 1 engine? Because if it won't fly on 1 engine, then what's the point of a twin? And in talking with the owner of Jabiru, Mick, we had some great discussions about its ability to perform on a single engine. It has a very close centerline thrust, so we don't have a lot of those issues you have with your bigger twins with that problem, you know, with the centerline. So I think in this kind of checked every one of those boxes.
One of the concerns you would think by having a twin engine, of course, would be the adverse yaw, and most aircraft have to have the components to be able to adversely manage that. So why is this aircraft able to handle that, or is there any modifications required?
So what makes this airplane distinctly different, we said earlier that, you know, J230, J430 is kind of the same airframe firewall back, which is kind of true. But on the D model Jabirus, J230D, J430D, or the 432D, they have a completely different vertical stab on the airplane. This vertical stab is airfoiled, so we have much more power in the tail, we have much more rudder authority, and we have much more yaw stability, which is something you definitely want in a twin engine airplane. So versus some of the old SP models that have a flat stab, flat-sided tail, the yaw authority is still good, but not good enough that we can use it with a twin. So that's one big difference between this airplane and some of the older Jabirus that are on the market today.
One question I have, Nick, being that you're going from a single engine to a twin engine, and all the extra, if you will, up front, is if that nose wheel and the suspension on the nose wheel is enough to handle the load.
Right. So while I haven't done any of the direct engineering calculations myself, Brian, if you look at this, you've got a 132-pound engine, and look where it's sitting, right? Almost on top of that engine, where the 185-pound Jabiru, remember we weighed him one day, would probably be sitting about where I am, okay? And we can go get some pictures of that later on. But you have a much larger engine hanging much further out. The arm and the load on the nose gear is much higher than if you just shove them back right over the top of it. We have more weight, but the force is much lower on the, or not lower, but very similar to the nose gear. So there wasn't any real need to update the nose gear from what it already is. It already meets SLSA standards, ASTM standards, and so there was just no real reason to upgrade the nose gear. So
okay, so enter in Scott. Now Scott's going to sell you one of these if you've been sold on the idea. But first, let me introduce Scott and what he does with Jabiru here in the United States. So Scott, what do you do?
Yeah, thanks a bunch. For work.
Yeah.
It's actually fun, and that's why I do it for work.
Awesome.
I'm the importer to the Americas for Jabiru Aircraft, and Jabiru Aircraft of Australia creates the 4-seater, the 2-seater, the light sport aircraft, factory-built aircraft, and kits as well, and now the twin kit, which will be a light sport aircraft in the next year, so we're hoping.
Nice. So you do the kits and the light sport, and soon this will be an ELSA, I guess. Right?
This will wind up being what I'm calling an MLSA, a Mosaic light sport aircraft, is the market that we're looking towards, and yeah, that should be through hopefully in this next year, later this year, next year.
That'll be amazing. Well, let me jump around the other side of the camera and talk shop.
Sounds great.
So Scott, being that we're all things experimental, let's talk about the kits for just a minute, and then we'll dive into this.
Yeah, man.
Being that Jabiru supplies kit, how does a kit come these days, and what do you expect to do once you get it?
Oh yeah, terrific. Well, dang, I wish we had a, we're out of kits right now, so we don't have one here, but the kit comes in 2 big boxes. They're plywood crates. It has the wings that are built already. It has the fuselage, and the halves are together, so it's built. The control surfaces are all built, so the flaps are going to be long, and they're going to be in there. The tail is not on, so it's probably the biggest fiberglass job is mounting the vertical stabilizer and the horizontal into the tail section. And that's a real simple layup with fiberglass tape. And they're jigged up, they're simple. You just insert the horizontal stabilizer into its bracket, and similar with the vertical stabilizer, it has a place to fit that. It's a real simple fit up. The kit is probably, 600 to 800 hours, 600 if you work with your hands, and 800 or more if you never have.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah,
right,
it's a pretty complete kit.
So rolling right into this then, how do you either build or buy one of these now or in the future?
Well, these are going to come very much the same way as what I just described. With the fuselage here, you can see the windows are not in, so you get to put the windows in. You get to put the doors on and that sort of thing. And then the difference then is the firewall forward kit for the twin is a little bit more extensive than the firewall forward kit for the single engine aircraft.
All right, Nick, so one of the questions I'm sure is going to come up, being this is a twin engine, is talking about adverse yaw and then also sustainable flight on one engine. So let's get into that.
Sure. So if you notice the engines, I kind of got my hands out here and I'm able to touch both the engines because they are very close to the center line. Even though both of them turn right like a traditional piston engine, we don't have a counterclockwise turning engine. or reverse rotation, we've got both these engines stuck in really, really tight. So while we still have a critical engine for twin operations, they are much closer together. 80 horsepower apiece gives us less of a critical engine than what we would normally have on, say, a Baron or an Aztec or something, where the engines were quite a bit further out on the wings. So so that we have that going for us, definitely. One thing Jabiru has done a lot of their flight testing, single engine. Everybody asks, well, will it fly on one engine? Yes, absolutely, will fly on one engine. It'll climb on one engine. So remember, the airplane is pretty light in the first place. So we got a light airplane, and we got at least 80 horsepower on one side going for us. So we will be able to fly on one engine, climb on one engine, do everything that we're required to do to meet, the safety standards for a twin engine aircraft.
All right, jumping back to one question on the airframe and then a couple on the engine here. What is the capacity for fuel in the aircraft? And then we'll go into the gallons per hour,
sure,
and also the
gross weight
increase.
Yeah. So the standard Jabiru airframe holds 18 gallons a side plus a gallon header tank in it. Being that we're going from a 6 gallon an hour 3300 down to a couple of 4 gallon an hour 2200s, Jabiru didn't feel there was any need to increase the fuel capacity of the airplane. Because remember, with a 3300 on the airplane, it still has about 3 times my bladder capacity, so I'm ready to land.
Is that how we technically measure things?
That's how we measure things. So with the 2200s, we've got 2 times my bladder capacity. Makes sense, it's a twin, right? So with burning 8 gallons an hour, and that much fuel on board, we still have way more fuel on board than most people are going to want to fly. If you're flying to Key West, you got a tons of fuel on board the airplane, even at 8 gallons an hour combined, which is still less than most twins burn on one side. So we've got that going with us. The gross weight of the aircraft, everybody says, well, we got 2 engines, a lot of weight, a lot of fuel. The projected gross weight is 1765. That's what Jabiru is saying. And so once we get a few more of these out there, the airframe can certainly handle it. We've got a 1,050-pound empty weight to go with that. So I think you're going to find an airplane that's really useful with those kind of gross weights, that kind of fuel burn, and not really have to worry about changing much other thing. Because remember, we're building it, we're helping build it, but it's still their design. And they feel that 18 gallons a side is still more than enough for a pair of 2200s. So.
Scott, let's talk price point for just a minute. If we got all excited about this thing and wanted to purchase one, what could you buy it for?
So let's qualify that with a date. This is the second quarter of 2024. So as
2025.
2025, thanks. That's why we do these things. So now the kit is going to be, with the firewall forward package, is going to be under 150, probably 140-ish, 139, 145 in that area. And then, so that gives you the airframe kit plus the firewall forward, less the engines. Then the engines, I think, presently are about 22,000, so you need 2 of those. You'll need a couple propellers, and that's the...
And then you're flying.
Then you're, almost flying. Of course, you're going to need paint, you're going to need interior and all that other, all the other stuff that goes into making an airplane.
Okay. Now,
instrument panel.
And where are you based again?
We're at US Sport Planes is the company, or JabiruLSA.com. And we're based in Denton, Texas, which is 20 nautical miles north of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
Nice. Now,
we have, interestingly, on the website, if you look at the 432 twin, you can look for there's a link to what it'll really cost you for everything in the kit. So you want so much instruments, you want this kind of interior, you want to do this and that. And so we do a projected all-up cost for all those little things that aren't really mentioned up front that you're going to wind up needing anyway. And so you can find those. I don't recall those numbers right here, but at JabiruLSA.com or USSportPlanes.com, you can find that in the kit section.
Okay, now out there in Texas, obviously you offer this now from a single to a twin. And insurance companies really are asking for transition training in time and type. Do you offer transition training in Texas?
We do for people that own aircraft.
Okay.
We provide that often. We sell new aircraft and broker used aircraft, as we sold most of the Jabirus in the United States. When owners want to upgrade an aircraft, or they move on, life changes, or they're aging out, they'll come to us to sell their used Jabiru aircraft. And so we provide that service for them. So the new owners oftentimes will want transition training, and usually an insurance company is going to require at least 5 hours, typically a 5-hour transition training. So we've got CFIs that will help people get that time. And in fact, a great idea that usually happens is the owner comes down, gets his airplane, the new owner, and the CFI and the owner fly back to their place. So you're kind of getting two birds with one stone. He's getting his transition training time of 5 hours, and they're getting the airplane back home. So it's a ferry service with a flight training, flight checkout all combined.
Will that work?
That'll work great.
Okay.
I'm too sexy for this plane.
Outtake.
Smile, you're on camera.
Take a few steps back. Look kind of like an RC plane, so that might work for you. Big smile. Thanks for watching this episode on the Experimental Aircraft channel. Quick shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. Co-pilot status, Zach Newsom, Mike Babcock, Lynn Gardner, Gary Martin, Michael Smith. We'll see you in the next episode.